A rerun of Hornby's Mk3 coaches in the first Great Western Dynamic Lines livery has been long awaited by many modellers. With these coaches now starting to show their age, are they a good purchase in 2022? It's time to take a closer look. Hi, thanks for joining today's video. We'll kick off with a brief unboxing of a couple of these coaches. We'll then do a close-up view of one of the coaches and also do a comparison to one of the earlier vintage coaches in this livery. We'll then get into our running session, follow that with our normal summary, scoring and final recommendation.
Hi, welcome to today's review. So today we're looking at some Mk3 coaches from Hornby. I've already been doing a review of the Hornby First Great Western HST, Class 43 HST. Now I'm going to take a look at the Mk3 coaches to go with that. If you wanted to get these coaches on eBay, you would have been probably paying anything between £70 to £100 per coach. So even though the new prices aren't great, they're significantly better than that. So it's a relief to be able to buy these through the retail channels now, which is good. I already have two of the First Great Western sleeper cars. I picked those up for £60 each. So it'd be interesting to do a little bit of a colour match, overall match with those. So we'll do that as part of the close-up. So let's get these out of the box. I've got two here. I've got the a restaurant buffet, which we're going to take a look at first. It's the R4035. Standard Mk3 packaging, so there's nothing to write home about there. It is what you're used to. It comes with the buffers, which you can add for loco drawn configuration. They wouldn't be installed on the HST configuration, and you've also got the large Hornby couplers, which would be on the older versions of these. The older Mk3s would have had these fixed when they didn't have them pockets on them. So let's take a look at the actual car itself. So it comes in, the typical packaging, there's nothing special here. I suppose important to note, this comes with the older coupler configuration where it's attached to the bogie. Now they pre-fitted the Lima type couplers, if I call them that. Now I think these couplers are really good for a HST configuration, so I don't have an issue with them. I note they don't have the other close coupler options included. I don't like those, and I've had coaches come loose with those when I've been running at speed, which is not good. So it is the older coach type. It's not the sliding door version. Doesn't have the spring return, and it doesn't have the extra detail that the sliding door coaches have. Like if you get the green Great Western coaches, the sliding door versions, but it's more of the older coach type. I guess again, as with the power car and dummy car that I looked at for the First Great Western livery, these look like something that's come off an older mould. The underbody detail there, for example, there's a softness about that. There's a softness around the doors there in terms of the registration and kind of detail. So it is an old vintage mould, and I suppose you can see that in the coach. The other, I suppose, outstanding, I mean, the main thing with these is the livery and the registration of this livery. Now, it looks like it's a transfer that's been applied, and it's probably not brilliant. We'll do a close-up view. It's not fantastic, and I will take a look at, when we look at the older version of this, the older vintage of that, we'll take a look at how well that was applied. But I guess, and it is challenging because this is a very large single transfer that had to be applied here, so that's not easy to get that applied. I can imagine trying to do that by hand myself, and it would not be an easy job. I wouldn't attempt it, to be honest. So it doesn't look perfect, but from a distance you probably don't really notice it that much. But we'll see when we're running this, as I say, and I will compare it to an older coach, and we'll kind of get a relative view as to how this stands up versus the older versions. The registration of the labelling and all this is good there on the car, and that's nice actually. The door light is good. No, it's not good here, so did a good job on this side, but not on the other side. And the kind of gangway area is pretty bland. There isn't really a lot of detail in it. It's the old style, if I call it that. It's the old form of that they have there, again, on the other side. So I guess it's not fantastic. I'll probably be docking some quality scores off this, to be honest, and it's not going to win on all the detailed stakes either. I wanted the livery. It's the only show in town if I wanted to get it, so it's a little bit of that involved in this. And I guess if I was judging this versus other coaches, it wouldn't probably be sitting as high as some other ones. No, you're going to pay full dollar for these, unfortunately. Same as you'd be paying for the more sliding door type coaches. You'll pay the same for this, again, which I don't think is correct from Hornby. I think they need to be differentiating the pricing based on the quality. These aren't the same quality, I think, as some of the newer coaches. So that's the restaurant car. We'll take a close-up view. I won't take the other coach out of the box. We'll take a close-up view of some of the other coaches I have as well, and a 360 view of a few of these coaches together. And then we'll do the running session with a rake of these with the proper power cars, and we'll get an overall feel for, do these hit the mark enough to be something you want to invest in, or will they be a disappointment for you? Okay, I can't answer that question yet, but I guess I did want to get them. I do want a rake of these. I did want to have a train with the power car and the coaches, so I'll probably live with it. But the quality on this coach is not up to what you kind of would expect, I suppose, today, and for the price you're paying for it.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the close-up view. So we're going to take a side-on view here of the second open coach, and you can see the Dynamic Lines livery there, and you can see that it is actually a transfer, and you can see the outer rim of the transfer. Now that's more or less visible across the different coaches. Some coaches it's not very visible, in other coaches like this one it is quite visible. The actual registration of the lines are good, they're clear. You've got the blue colour of the coach, which I do have a question mark over, and we'll talk about that when we compare this to a 2015 coach, the sleeper coach from 2015, the previous versions. Underbody looks okay here, but it is soft, and when you have it in the hand, it does look soft. And the roof is also soft on this particular one. Again, it actually looks better here in the photograph than it does in your hand. The door is more prototypical than the older coaches, so that's that more saturated pink colour on the door is actually, from any photographs I've looked at, that looks to be prototypical. Whereas the previous coach, and you can see it here on this one, the comparison, it's got a lighter pink, kind of a paler pink, and that doesn't look to be up to scratch from what I've seen. It does have a different shade of blue, however. It's got this richer, more saturated blue, kind of purpley blue, which I prefer, just from a colour perspective, I prefer it. I don't know, is it more prototypical or not? I can't quite tell that from looking at older photographs, and really would need input from people who've seen these coaches in real life. I'm going to take a look now at the actual registration. So this is the sleeper car. This is the 2015 coach. You can see the fuzziness there. This was printed on and it's fuzzy. Here's the new coach. It's clear, the lines are clear, but you've got the kind of outside shadow of the transfer there, which doesn't always appear. Where it doesn't appear, it looks quite good. And from a distance, it's not that visible. And here we have, looking at two coaches here from a distance, and you don't really see it from here. The coaches look okay. And really the main issues here are going to be the fact that you've got a softer roof on the first open, second open on the right hand side there, versus the TGS or the restaurant car, which we have on the left. And it is very noticeable when you have it in the hand. You could probably just see it there now. You can see the softness on the roof. And there's a general softness on the underbody, as I mentioned. Again, from a distance, they look okay. They look fine. The gangway area, unfortunately, is the old gangway area. It's common to all the older generations of these coaches. I really would have preferred the gangway area that they have on the sliding door coaches, which I do think is much nicer. But unfortunately, you're going to have to live with this. This is the old one that's here. I think the main thing here is that difference between things like the first open, second open, and the restaurant car. So here now we've brought in the sleeper car, and we're looking at the differences here. And again, the thing here I think is the colour really jumps out in this particular shot. the richer purpley blue colour that's on the sleeper car versus a slightly more dull and more muted blue that's on the 2022 coaches. You've got the better door on the 2022 coaches. It seems to have the more prototypical colour on it. There's kind of an overall slight difference in appearance there, and you've obviously got the registration of the Dynamic Lines livery is a little bit different because they use different processes between the two. You know, jury's out, I think, in terms of comparing the two. So now we get into the running session. There's a full version of this. I'll put a link in the description, which I did for the power cars. But running with the 6-car rigs, I was still missing 2 coaches when I did this running session, but you'll get an idea from the 6 cars that we have here. And we'll kind of focus on the cars in the running session as opposed to the coaches, I should say, rather than the power and dummy cars. I think from a distance, the livery looks fine and looks okay. I probably toned up the saturation of this video a little bit so the blue is a bit richer, but you can see the Dynamic Lines livery there. It's clear and it looks okay. And you can probably noticeably see a more shinier roof for the second open and first open cars versus the TGS and the restaurant car, which have a slightly duller roof. And that's the reason, because they have a more detailed roof. The detail is still standing in those, whereas there's a shinier, softer roof. So you can see it there during the running session. It is actually quite visible when you look at them from certain angles, and just the way the light falls on the roof, which is the kind of giveaway that there is that softness there. But just focus on the running aspects. These coaches run as good as any of the previous Mark III coaches that I have from Hornby. I had absolutely no issues with them. Ran them up to the top speed, ran them over the point work, and there's absolutely no issues. We're running with the Lima couplers, except at the front and the end, where I've swapped out the larger couplers to connect to the power cars, using the Lima couplers in between, and that is my preferred configuration. It does give you some good close coupling. It gives you very positive coupling. You never get coaches coming loose or anything like that, and I've always found it very good. And you also don't get any of the bungee effect that you get on the kinematic couplers, the spring return couplers, because you've got 2 springs in there, and if you put in a tension lock coupler between those, you get this bungee effect, which just kills any sort of realism of any train that you have. And you can get that, unfortunately, with the spring return couplers because of the spring. Basically 2 springs can give you that sort of effect. Don't get it here with the fixed couplers, so I've no issue with this. This is a 10 out of 10 from a performance perspective. These are incredibly smooth running coaches. You could run with a rake of 50 of them, and these power cars would have no problem drawing it, because the actual resistance of the coaches is so low. And as I said, they're really good runners at speed and really good runners over any sort of point work, track work that you have. I have done a comparison of the older coach types with the new sliding door types, and I'll put a link to that in the description if you want to check that out. But no qualms about these particular coaches from a performance perspective. Okay, so now we get into the summary. For reference, I've included a list of all the coaches that are part of the 2022 range from Hornby, and I've got an asterisk on the ones there that appeared in the running session, and there's 2 other ones that didn't appear. As part of this review, we've basically got all of the coaches that are representative of this range. So let's get into the actual capabilities of the coaches. So these are the First Great Western Mark III coaches in the Dynamic Lines livery. There's 8 variants in total across 5 different coach types. They come with 2 different sets of couplers. The Lima type couplers are installed as default, and you get the larger Hornby type couplers in the kit, and you can install them into the NEM pocket that's on either end of these coaches. There's also optional buffers included for front and rear if you want to use this in locomotive mode. Maximum scale speed that I tested these at was 128 miles per hour, but I have run Mark III coaches from Hornby before at much higher speeds, and I don't have any reason to believe that these coaches would have any issues with higher speeds either. They performed really well. The unboxed weight for the buffet car and the TGS is 174 grams, and for the other cars it is 153. They are lighter, and that's in keeping with previous Mark III coaches from Hornby. The retail selling price typically sells between $360.68 to $44.99, which is the RRP. And you'll tend to find it around the 10% discounted level, which is around £39.40. Okay, so now let's get into the scoring. So the running performance on this, as I mentioned, is a 10 out of 10, and it's equivalent to previous Mk3 coaches from Hornby that I would have reviewed. Appearance in detail, however, is a little bit lower, and that's because of this softness aspect that we have. So 7.5 for that. The extras and variants, all the variant main coach types are here, so you can create a full prototypical rake with the range of 8 coaches that are available as part of the 2022 range. However, in terms of extras, it is relatively limited. You do have the optional couplers and you do have the buffers. So it's a 7 out of 10, again in keeping with previous versions of the Mk3 coaches from Hornby. Build quality and packaging. Packaging is fine. The build quality in general is fine also. A few little quirks, I guess, in terms of some inconsistencies regarding the transfer for the Dynamic Lines livery. And it does vary across the coaches. And again, I am marking the aspect of quality in terms of the tool softness that just again creates a variation across the coaches that you mightn't have seen on previous iterations of Mk3s from Hornby. For some people it might be an issue that you saw it in the running session, the shiny roof for things like the second open, or things like the Buffet car had a more matted roof because it's a more detailed roof. I guess the issue here really is the variation that you're getting across the coaches. The lack of consistency is what I'm scoring against here under build quality. Price value at the £39 level is 4 out of 10, and I'll flash up the score chart for that just after this in terms of my scoring ranges for this, which gives an overall score of 7.5 out of 10, which is on the low end for Mk3 coaches that I've scored or reviewed in the past. Some of the aspects there are due to the age, the lack of uniformity across the coaches in terms of aspects of quality, and also the increased price. So this is really all leading to a lower score than I typically would have given to Mk3 coach. This is the chart I've been using to generate that score. So if you're in that 38, 39 range, it's a score of 4, still considered bad value. This is an old tool that's been used with this coach, so any investment in that tooling has been well and truly clawed back over previous years, and so putting this coach out at the same price as the brand new sliding door coaches and even coaches that have some sort of lighting capability or potential for lighting capability is crazy. This coach needs to be priced accordingly. It is an older coach design and should be priced accordingly. So fair value is in the kind of mid-30s there, and that's really where I think you want to be targeting the price that you pay for this coach. If you can get it for less than that, well and good, that'd be great. But I think if you can get it in that mid-range there, then it's definitely worth taking a look. So now we get into the recommendation. These coaches are definitely starting to show their age. Noticeable softening on the roofs of both second open and first open cars and the underbodies of all of the cars. The running performance is still up to that of their predecessors, and the simpler fixed coupling mechanism with the Lima couplers will last forever and still has a very good level of close coupling. I still have some question marks over the application of the Dynamic Lines livery, with some variation in quality across the coaches that I have, as well as some registration and colour differences versus the older sleeper coaches that I have. If you can live with the shortcomings and get them at the right price, then these coaches are worth a look and will be much cheaper than anything you'll see for the previous run of these coaches, either on eBay or elsewhere. For owners of the earlier runs of these coaches, there's nothing for you here unless you're trying to fill a gap in your existing rake. If this is the case, then I would advise you bring in one of your coaches to compare it with one of the new ones to make sure you're happy before purchasing. I would welcome feedback in the comments from owners of the previous runs of these coaches. Would you be happy adding some of the new coaches to your existing rake? As for myself, I have a full rake of these coaches now and would be keeping them. I wasn't happy with the price I paid, but wanted the coaches, and I guess this is the dilemma many of you First Great Western fans will have to deal with. I could be waiting another 3 to 4 years before a revamped version of these coaches was available, but life is too short, so I've weighed up the compromises and gone with them. I did pick up the train pack for a reduced price, so that has softened the blow for me somewhat. I guess at the end of the day, you're going to have to make your own decision based on what I've covered here and actually getting hold of some of these coaches and taking a look at them for yourself. So thanks for watching today. Thoughts and feedback as always in the comments. Please hit a like if you found this video of use, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one when I'll be reviewing the Accurascale HYA and biomass wagons that have just landed. In the meantime, happy modelling.